Let's be honest. Today, if your Amazon package is late, it's a crisis. We get anxious, we refresh the tracking page, and maybe even complain online. Our biggest risk is a missed delivery or a soggy box on the porch. But imagine a time before shipping, before tracking, before customer service, before you could even dream of next-day delivery. Back then, there was no hotline to call, no app to check, and no guarantee your order would ever arrive. Back then, getting a new outfit meant crossing continents, risking your life for a piece of fabric. It wasn't just a shopping trip, it was a full-blown expedition, with danger lurking at every turn. Silk was so desirable, people trekked for years through deserts and mountains just to get it. Imagine walking for months, braving sandstorms, freezing nights, and the constant threat of bandits, all for a shimmering scarf. Picture pitching this. We'll load shiny fabric made by worms onto camels, walk for 2 years through bandit country and maybe get rich. The risks were enormous, but so were the rewards. The promise of wealth, adventure, and exotic goods was enough to convince people to leave everything behind, and people actually signed up. They formed caravans, trusted strangers, and set out into the unknown, all for the hope of bringing back something rare and precious. It makes modern business plans look tame. Today's boardroom pitches can't compare to the sheer guts it took to walk the Silk Road, and it wasn't just silk. Spices like cinnamon and pepper were worth more than gold. These tiny treasures could change fortunes and spark wars. Imagine telling your friends you're sailing across the world for pepper because your steak is bland. You'd face storms, pirates, and months at sea, all for a handful of flavor. This wasn't just commerce, it was an extreme sport for the flavor-obsessed. Every deal was a gamble, every journey a test of endurance and luck. But this madness connected the world. These risky journeys wove together distant cultures, ideas, and inventions, laying the groundwork for our global society. So join me as we explore the Silk Road, the spice routes, and the wild journeys that built our modern world. These were the original highways of history, where fortunes were made and lost. Forget travel vlogs, this was adventure travel with real stakes. Every step was a leap into the unknown, with no guarantee of return. The goal wasn't to find yourself, it was to survive and maybe taste pepper for the first time. Imagine the thrill of discovering a new flavor after months of hardship. These ancient shopping trips changed everything. They sparked new cities, new ideas, and new ways of life, all thanks to a little bit of risk and a lot of curiosity. So, ready to risk it all for a scarf? Let's go. The adventure is just beginning, and who knows what treasures we'll find along the way. Spoiler, it was probably worth it. For those who dared, the rewards were legendary, and their stories still inspire us today. The Silk Road wasn't a road in the way we think of highways today. It was a sprawling, tangled network of dangerous trails and shifting paths, stretching over 4,000 miles from China all the way to the Mediterranean. It was less a single route and more a web of possibilities, each one fraught with peril and uncertainty. There were no signs to guide you, no rest stops to offer comfort, just endless, unforgiving sand, and for many, a growing sense of regret with every step. The landscape was so harsh that even the most experienced travelers could lose their way. The Chinese guarded the secret of silk production as fiercely as if it were nuclear codes, keeping the process hidden for centuries. Meanwhile, the Romans were absolutely obsessed with getting their hands on this mysterious, shimmering fabric, willing to pay any price for a taste of its luxury. Goods didn't just travel from one end to the other, they changed hands dozens of times along the way, with each trader marking up the price, each exchange adding another layer to the story of the silk. By the time silk finally reached Rome, it was worth its weight in gold, sometimes even more. It became a symbol of status, power, and the incredible distances it had traveled. The journey was brutal, deserts that could swallow entire caravans, mountains so high they were called the roof of the world, and bandits lurking at every turn, waiting to ambush the unwary. Most traders only dared to travel part of the route, selling their goods at bustling oasis cities like Samarkand or Kashgar before turning back. These cities became vibrant hubs of culture, commerce, and survival. The silk itself might pass through a dozen hands or even more before finally reaching its destination. Each trader added their own story, their own risks, and their own hopes to the journey. It was the world's first and most inefficient supply chain, a chaotic relay race across continents, with fortunes won and lost at every stop. So why risk it all? For money, for glory, and for the chance to become a legend in your own lifetime. The Silk Road promised riches, but only to those bold enough to face its dangers. Surviving the Silk Road made you a hero, someone who had conquered the elements, outwitted bandits, and endured the impossible. Most didn't finish the journey, but those who did changed history, connecting worlds and cultures in ways never seen before. It was high risk, high reward, and the ultimate test of endurance, courage, and determination. And to think it all started with a single shimmering piece of cloth, one that would change the world forever. Silk was just the start. The Silk Road was a moving department store. From China came porcelain, tea, rice, and even gunpowder. The West sent gold, silver, glassware, and wool. Horses were traded for silk, ancient tanks for shiny cloth. But the real magic was in the exchange of ideas. Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam all traveled these routes, transforming cultures along the way. Merchants didn't just bring goods, they brought new ways of thinking. Even weird stuff like rhino horns and turtle shells made the journey, sometimes for dubious, medicinal reasons. The Silk Road also spread technology. The compass, papermaking, and winemaking all crossed continents. Every caravan was a cultural exchange on four legs. The result? Civilization shaped by what was in the shopping cart, and by the stories that came with it. It was messy, chaotic, and world-changing, and it all moved at the speed of a camel. If risking it all for silk sounds wild, wait until you hear about the spice routes. Europe's food was bland, salt was the only seasoning. Then came tales of magical spices: pepper, cloves, nutmeg, cinnamon. These were rare, expensive, and grew only in far-off places. Getting them meant braving pirates, storms, and endless seas. Arab traders spun wild stories to protect their monopoly. Cinnamon from giant bird nests, anyone? Spices became status symbols and essential for preserving food. The obsession for flavor kicked off the age of discovery. Columbus and da Gama sailed into the unknown, all for a taste of pepper. World-changing exploration, all because someone wanted better chicken. Sometimes a little flavor is worth risking everything. The economics of spice were insane. A pound of nutmeg could buy you 7 oxen. Imagine that. A handful of dried seeds, worth more than a herd of livestock. Spices weren't just flavor, they were fortune, and people would risk everything for them. Peppercorns were so valuable they were used as currency. You could literally pay your rent with them, or settle debts. In some places, a few peppercorns could open doors that gold could not. Spices were rarer than gold, and their value was fueled by mystery and misinformation. People believed the most outlandish stories about where they came from, and that only made them more desirable. Traders told wild tales: cinnamon harvested from bird nests high in mythical trees, nutmeg as a magical cure for the plague. These stories made spices seem almost supernatural. People believed spices could heal, protect, and even save lives. They were medicine, amulets, and hope all rolled into one tiny package. During the Black Death, spice prices soared as desperate people sought hope in a pinch of clove. Merchants grew rich, while ordinary people clung to the belief that spices could ward off death itself. But it wasn't just about taste or medicine, it was about status and power. To own rare spices was to show the world your wealth and influence. Controlling the spice trade was the ultimate flex for kings and empires. Whoever held the trade routes held the keys to unimaginable riches and global influence. Spices were the oil of their day, driving fortunes and wars. Empires rose and fell over the right to trade a pinch of pepper or a sack of cloves. Using them meant you were worldly, wealthy, and connected. To serve spiced food was to announce your place in the world's elite. The craving for flavor built empires and changed the world. Cities rose along trade routes, and entire civilizations flourished on the back of spice, all for a little more taste in life. That craving for something new, something better, drove explorers across oceans and deserts. That's the power of a pinch of pepper. It's not just seasoning, it's history, adventure, and ambition in your hand. The world's most expensive seasoning, worth every risk, every journey, every battle fought to possess it. And the ultimate symbol of global ambition, connecting continents and cultures through the simple desire for flavor. Think your delivery driver has it tough? Try being an ancient trader. Sandstorms could bury caravans, blizzards could freeze you solid, and there were no forecasts, just hope. On the sea, monsoons and hidden reefs made every voyage a gamble. Bandits and pirates were everywhere, waiting to ambush or board you. There was no help, just you, your goods, and your luck. Wildlife was another threat. Wolves, snakes, tigers, and even imagined sea monsters. Every shadow could be your last. But the deadliest danger was disease. No antibiotics, no sanitation, one cut or bad drink could be fatal. Plagues like the Black Death traveled these same routes, wiping out millions. The very roads that brought riches also brought devastation. Every journey was a roll of the dice against nature, thieves, and microbes. Survival was never guaranteed, but the rewards were legendary. Ancient delivery was a high-stakes game, and the world was forever changed by those who played it. These trade routes weren't just about goods, they were about accidental discoveries. Most traders weren't explorers, they just wanted to deliver a package and survive. But along the way, they became the world's first accidental tourists. Marco Polo went to China to trade but came back with stories that inspired generations. His tales of advanced cities and strange customs sparked the age of discovery. Even pasta's journey from east to west is tangled up in these routes. The real souvenirs were ideas and inventions, the compass, paper, and new foods. These small things revolutionized travel, communication, and daily life. Trade was the engine, but exchange was the real legacy. Cultures mixed, borrowed, and transformed each other. The world got smaller, and infinitely more interesting, all thanks to a few curious merchants and their epic detours. Sometimes the best discoveries are the ones you never planned. Where there's trade, cities rise. The Silk Road's rest stops became legendary cities. Samarkand, Bukhara, Kashgar. These oases thrived on commerce, turning sand into civilization. Markets buzzed with traders from every corner of the world, haggling in dozens of languages. These cities became melting pots, places where ideas, religions, and inventions collided. Wealth from trade funded golden ages of art, science, and architecture. The same happened along the spice routes. Venice, Calicut, Malacca became global powerhouses. Port cities were gateways connecting continents and cultures. Decisions in China could change prices in Rome. The world became a network, not a collection of isolated bubbles. Cities were the bright nodes holding it all together. Trade built more than wealth. It built the world as we know it. And it all started with a caravan and a dream. So, what did we get from all this risk and adventure? Everything. Ancient traders were the original influencers, shaping trends, moving markets, connecting cultures. Every bolt of silk and bag of pepper was a thread in the fabric of our modern world. They laid the foundation for today's global economy. We complain about driving for groceries. They crossed continents for flavor. Their journeys were hard-won, built on sweat, risk, and patience. The legacy is everywhere, in our food, languages, religions, and technology. The fusion that began in ancient markets continues in our cities today. We've swapped camels for cargo ships, desert trails for fiber optic cables, but the impulse to connect and trade remains unchanged. The Silk Road and spice routes show the power of travel and exchange. They made the world smaller, richer, and more complex. And they did it all without a single travel blog.